Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Misfits Muse. I'm Jason,
I'm Nero.
and it's good to be here. And it looks like we are indeed streaming on Substack. Hooray!
Yeah. Guess what's
Techno-
different this time?
your hair looks nice.
Thank you. Um, no, my mic's not muted.
Oh, hooray for technology when it functions. I have this little
First
mute
few times
switch,
my
and
mic
sometimes
was
I,
muted.
I forget that I'm using it. So last week was fun. We had with our hangout with You Ready Grandma. I've been seeing him in a lot of the various online chats. That was a fun thing. And hey, folks in the chat, I see Julie and Dozer and David. So that's awesome to see you. Today is going to be really fun um, because we've got a musical guest, and that's going to be very cool. Um, you got something for us, Neuro? You were pointing like I was.
Oh no, the live isn't showing up.
Oh, it's there.
uh,
I can see it. We're good. I can, at least for me, I can see, and in fact, I can see you joined it.
huh.
So it's there. Browser fun. I know it's all kind of weird, but no, I think we're good. We've got 9 people on board. So this is fun. Welcome to Sunday and the Misfits Muse, where we try to offer a space that is maybe a little bit outside of the current events entanglements, right? So we're trying to keep things light here. But I want to. Do
Oh,
you
there
have
we
anything else to announce before we get going?
go. Yeah. So next episode, we're taking a couple weeks off, right?
Yeah. Well, I've got travel and
Right.
there's a lot of things going on.
So our next guest, which is in April, I want to say the 5th, is Walter
uh,
Ryan.
the 5th or the 14th. I can't remember which, because the 5th was Easter, I think.
Oh, is it? Oh, then it's the 14th, right?
Okay.
Because
Right.
we
We may have an Easter guest, but we just didn't
or
know.
the
People,
the 12th,
the
April 12th.
12th. Is the
Yeah,
12th? Okay.
yeah.
I need a calendar. Oh my God. Yes,
I
Walter
just pulled
Ryan's
mine
going to join us.
up.
So I'm excited. I'm wearing my hat, and I got to get a better beanie for
that's
that.
that's the nice thing about live streaming on a computer is that I can just look real quick.
Right, right. We can do that. So yes, we are taking a little break just due to schedule conflicts. We love you all. We're not doing it because of anybody out there. So without any further things to discuss, let's get Taz on here, and let's see. Add. Boom. Hey, Taz.
Hello.
Great. Good to see you. I've been
Nice
following
to
you
be with you
since
guys.
since pretty early on in my Substack experience. I don't know why I found your account, but I did, and I'm happy I did.
Likewise. Likewise.
Thanks.
That, you kind of remind me of like a soft Bonnie Raider and Lucinda Williams.
Oh, well that's high praise. Thank you.
Excellent stuff. So tell us a little bit about just tell our listeners, our viewers. We're not on radio. We're on live on Substack. Tell our viewers today a little bit about yourself, like what you do and where you're, and of course where they can subscribe to you here on Substack.
Okay. Yeah, Tamara Casey, but I go by Taz on Substack, and that's what a lot of my friends call me. So if you're following me on Substack, you're probably considered a friend. So call me Taz. And I currently live in Maryland, and I'm a full time technology executive. Have been doing that for the better part of 40 years now, and music is the latest in a series of hobbies I've had in my life and interests, and have been working on music as my sort of full-time non-day job interest since about 2017. So coming up on a 10-year anniversary here. So but I've always had a lot of interesting passions, flying, sailing, ballroom dancing, all kinds of crazy things. You can read all about it on my Substack, which is Rare Groove Productions. So.
And I got to say, I liked that name because the word groove has multiple implications.
Yes.
Because your first thing about it is like a groove. And then I started thinking about a record has a groove.
Right.
And I'm assuming that was intentional.
It was intentional, although I've actually written about the origin of the name on my Substack.
Oh,
And
okay.
one of my best friends came up with that Rare Groove when I was doing live music production back in the late 90s for a dance night at a jazz club in Cambridge. And so I was doing that through all my dancing friends. And so they wanted to have live entertainment, and I was the only one in the crew who knew how to pull all that together from a production standpoint. So I was like, oh, I need a company. I need a name to pay all these people and do all this stuff. So
yeah, no kidding.
my friend Russell was like, Rare Groove, Daz, Rare Groove. I was like, okay. So
there you go. Hey, whatever works. So I'm
it
guessing
it can span the music or the dance
yeah,
genre. So I liked that. So.
that's cool. I like that. I like that a lot. So obviously the music is not your day job. It's your I'm guessing it's more than a hobby, but it's also an outlet, right? It's kind of that does it straddle
Yeah,
the
100%. The as was dance at the time when I was doing that very, very seriously. I think I've always had a little bit of a sort of split personality in the sense that I've been attracted to technology since I was a kid. I've always been very mechanically inclined and, fascinated by technology. But I've also always had some sort of creative outlet on the side my whole life. And so it's what keeps me sane, keeps my brain, both sides of the brain balanced, all that stuff. Stress reduction, friendships beyond work, all of the connective tissue that you need, to be balanced, right? So
absolutely. In fact, you just described how I approach photography too. I mean, yeah, it's my job, but I don't view it as a job as much. That I love the and the interaction between technical things and creative things.
yeah.
I can't sing to save my life, but but I know what you're talking about. When
You
I
have
first
that great
started,
podcasting voice.
yeah,
So.
well, that's about I got that going for me. Thank you. But I remember trying to do a podcast in 2005, and the configuration for audio it
It's come a
was
long
like
way. It's come a
it
long
well,
way.
and one thing you figure out real fast with a computer is that all of the stuff that they give you is configured to have one microphone USB input. And that right there became a technical challenge to overcome.
Yep.
The next thing I knew, I had a little sound USB sound mixer with XLR inputs, and I'm trying to, and we were in the coffee, and it's like, no, get closer to the mic. I mean, just all of the stuff that goes with sound. I imagine you have
I
quite a bit
confess,
of.
I was tempted to do this from my studio downstairs at home, just so I'd have the big, fancy looking podcaster mic. But I was like,
It's all
rather
good.
be comfy. This is like a coffee clutch, so I wanted to be comfy.
You got a question, Neuro?
Oh,
I just step on. I don't want to step on you.
Made me think of Robert Reeves, who has
coffee clutch. Yeah, another good Substacker.
There's so many good ones out there. I mean, I'm guessing that you've had a love of music for just a long time, right? Just forever.
Yes, I have been. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I consider myself very blessed to be the age that I am as it relates to music, because, as a wee one, I was listening to the greatest music of the 60s and 70s, which, is still hard to beat in my opinion. And, then got to see all the transition of, 80s, 90s and aughts and all of that. So, I've woven in and out of what interests me musically. I have very, very diverse musical tastes, which was sort of always the case. I grew up in California, so I've always had a strong affinity for Latin music. I used to be part of a Mexican folk dancing troupe when I was a kid and things like that, so I've always liked that. I did a lot of ballet and figure skating, so I think I had more of an appreciation for classical music at a young age than maybe many many folks did. And then when I got into ballroom dancing, that just really exploded my musical taste, particularly relative to Latin music, I would say. But really going back and developing a much deeper love and appreciation for the American songbook and jazz. And so yeah, I'm kind of all over the place. It's always been a huge part of my life. And I've always played piano, at varying levels of seriousness off and on my whole life. I used to play the flute when I was younger as well. And now I'm attempting to teach myself to play the baritone ukulele.
Well, there you go. Now that's one. That's one.
That is the most underrated instrument. If anybody thinks they can't play an instrument, pick up a ukulele. And if you're embarrassed by a ukulele, then get a baritone ukulele because they actually sound just like a guitar.
Do you know the ukulele story with George Harrison?
I do not, but I've got a good Roger Cook ukulele story for you.
All right. Well, I attended years ago. I saw Sir Paul in Denver, a concert. Amazing, of course, as you might expect. And the concert that he gave was it was worth it as much for the music, but also for the stories that he had to tell. Because there's not a lot of OG people from that area who were really there during the whole time. Certainly not a lot of bands that you can see anymore that are still together.
Yep.
But he was talking about George Harrison said he always carried a ukulele whenever they would travel anywhere because it was small and compact, and he could hammer out ideas on the ukulele.
Yep.
And I think one song, I forget, it was a George Harrison song. Paul actually brought out a ukulele and started playing it, and then they switched to the full band. But I can't remember which one it was. It wasn't While My Guitar Gently Weeps, but whatever, nevertheless, your point about having multi-talent and multi-instruments is when did you figure that out, that you were pretty good at that you could do the music thing?
Well, let's see. I mean, that's a little bit of a loaded question, but like I had some really weird things, like when I was a kid, and you do stuff in school. I would get picked out a lot to like sing or be a soloist, if there was a group of kids singing. I mean, I remember being on television and like, I was like 8 years old or 7 or 8 years old or something, for some Young Sounds of Spring, whatever the hell that was, for some Easter show. Ironically, here we are approaching Easter. And, having to be, the soloist for In Your Easter Bonnet or something, so I think there were these little things, that sort of germinated around. And then I mentioned, the ballet and the skating and the folk dancing. So the dance part of it was sort of more there earlier in my life. But, then I, get asked to sing at something and a church thing or something else. And so, I didn't really get into any of this to be a performer. I got into this on a total fluke, which is just, I'd written some lyrics that I was like, I think this is going to be a good song, and went through and I've explained all that on my Substack. Went through, started working with some friends to shape it into a song, and really just fell in love with the songwriting process itself, both musically and lyrically. But my dominant strength is the lyrical aspects and or the production, because I did study video and audio engineering in college, so I do have a background in the whole production side of it, the technical side of it. But when I was working on my song Legend, which is a tribute to Stevie Nicks, one of my co-writers and co-producers, Todd Wright, said, "You need to sing this song." And I was like, well, I don't want I was trying to write songs to get other people to sing them at the time. And I was like, why should I sing? What are you talking about? He's like, you have a perfect voice for this song. You should really sing this song. It's your tribute to her. I think, she means more to you. That's why you wrote this. So I was like, okay, what the hell, and got up and got behind the microphone and started singing. And I battled with that for a while, like I didn't really want to be a performer. But I was like paying other people to sing demos of my songs and stuff. And, I was like, well, if nothing else, I can just, get them all demoed easier and cheaper this way and stuff. So, I really kind of stumbled into the whole, writing, recording, and releasing music for myself just kind of came as a outflow of the process, not from an intention that I set.
Just kind of happened upon it. The next thing you knew, you were
it
doing
was very organic, how it all came together. And I'm not a prolific songwriter. I'm not out gigging on the weekends or anything. So for me now, my music kind of really falls into two main categories. There's stuff that I'm writing and recording and releasing for myself because it's part of just what I want to have out there. And then there's the work that I do, which I may or may not sing on myself or just sing on backup vocals on or something, which is all the music that I'm writing that is, still very autobiographical, but designed to fit better into a film scene or a TV scene or, an ad snippet or something like that. The sync music that I wrote about recently. That's really
practical,
a huge passion for me. Yeah.
Almost practical.
I'm glad that he told you to sing. Otherwise, we'd be deprived of your lovely voice.
Well, thank you. My fans are small, but they're devoted.
Oh, good. Yes.
I can see why. See why they're devoted.
Thank you.
Well, yeah. I mean, and this is, and we're gonna go there because I'm hoping that our technology works today to allow us to play some of your more recent songs. We'll talk about them in a little bit, but I do want to just like to. I'm not wired in this way, and I want to ask you a little bit about your songwriting, what your process, what do you go through? Because I know like some people just say, oh, well, it's kind of like you write a poem and then you set it to music. And, I'm thinking like Simon and Garfunkel or something like that. But then you've got someone like Paul McCartney who just comes up with a song. Like he's just so brilliant that it just comes into his head. And I've noticed reading some of your articles that you have your words, but you also take musical theme cues from other artists, and you're not afraid to mention that because you're getting your inspiration from somewhere. So just what do you, when you say like I'm gonna write a song, like what do you do? Like do you just go down in your basement and start writing words, pen and paper, or how's that work?
Sometimes, but I'd say songwriting, there are definitely two primary camps of approach, right? So and then there's iterations within that. So the two primary camps are the people who are just musical, and they're constantly coming up with new melodic concepts and arrangements and things like that. So there's people who write from music first. There's people who write from lyric first. And then I guess there's three. And then there's the people who have both very dominant in their head, and then they're just kind of iterating back and forth between those two. So I'm very much in the start from the lyric concept, like 99% of the time. And most of the collaborators that I mentioned are start from the music 99% of the time. So when you do this long enough, you also really, you kind of find your people, right? And people you just gel with. And, like one of my collaborators that I mention a lot, Todd Wright, he has been writing, hundreds of songs a year for, dozens of years, right?
Wow.
So he's kind of like, I'm tired of this. Like, I want to help other people. I just, somebody else come up with the ideas and I'll help work out the musical arrangements, right? And then other folks are like, they're just very intent on their instruments and the music aspect of it, and they're sort of like, they almost don't care what the words are, and so it really depends. But those are the two main approaches. So for me, I'm usually coming at it from the lyrics like 90+% of the time. So I keep a journal of ideas. I keep files in the computer full of ideas. It's phrases, something you hear somebody say, something you overhear, newspaper headlines. I mean, anything can be a source of inspiration for it. The thing that's different about songwriting than just purely writing a poem necessarily is, I'd say, the balance between telling somebody something and showing somebody something. And in songwriting, and this will vary, depends, if you're writing a country song versus a pop song versus a rock song, like there's different sort of balances between those things. But there's a quote that I like that Gretchen Peters, who's one of the best songwriters alive, in my opinion, said, that it's something to the, she was quoting somebody else, but it's something to the effect that when you go for the specific, you achieve the universal, right? Because when you give someone, the smell of fresh mountain rain or whatever, like you giving them a very visceral experience to relate to. Now what they think that means versus what you think that means doesn't matter, right? It just matters that it's going to mean something to really everybody, right? That you have that connection. So I think the difference between poetry and songwriting is the balance between how much show versus tell there is, and how you maybe choose to reveal your inner monologue and sentiments and emotions, balanced with that, how you're painting pictures for people. You think of it as trying to sort of paint pictures with your words.
Interesting. I have a little follow-up to that, because it's, I would guess, and I'm just, again, my limited knowledge of any of this is so enlightening, educational for me. But do you have to then tinker with your lyrics to get it to fit a song? Like, how do you know?
Yes.
When do you get stuck on that, and when can you call it done? Like, when do you say, like, okay, it's actually finished? Do you ever struggle with that, to say, is it done, or is it just still?
Jason, I have songs that are released out in the wild that I'm like, that's not done yet. yeah. It's a constant struggle. Sometimes more so than others, but and I heard a funny story by Garth Brooks, actually, about a song that he'd written, and he couldn't quite get it the way he wanted it. And, he just finally got so sick of it, he just shoved it in a drawer. And I think he was like moving or something. And so he was like going through the house, cleaning stuff up, and he found this stack of songs that he just shoved in the, I don't know if these are ever going to be anything drawer or whatever. And he pulled one of them out, and and then it just came to him how to finish it, and he released it, and it became a huge hit, So,
Oh, wow.
So yeah, great. we all tinker. And I think that's maybe another area where songwriting varies from poetry a little bit, is unless you're writing sonnets or something, you're not trying to craft your words around a syllable count or something necessarily. Right? You might have some constraints there, but they're not going to be as constraining as wrapping your words to the melody that they need to accompany. And and sometimes the words definitely inspire the melodies, but I had a funny example the other day. I was in the studio recording some stuff, and I'd written this lyric, and we'd worked on a basic sort of arrangement. I'd actually come up with the melody originally on this one, and then but I had a very specific production idea I wanted to do with the song. And so I'd asked Todd to work on some, guitars and keyboard pieces that fit this sonic thing I was looking for. And when he came back with it, it was a little bit different. And he's like, I had to, he's like, if you like this, just know I had to change it. And I don't think the melody you came up with is going to fit exactly in this. So I was like, just play it and I'll just sing it and we'll just see what happens. Right. And I just kept singing it over and over and tweaking and, till I found the new melody that was close enough to what I'd come up with originally, but then felt comfortable in the overall broader musical framework that we'd put together. So it's always, I mean, they should call us tinkers, not songwriters. That's what
Let's see what Bernie Taupin says about that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, then you get, those two are extraordinary in terms of they defy every trope about songwriting, every rule about song. I mean, that's one of the reasons I like Gretchen Peters so much as well, is when you are as talented as Elton and Bernie or someone like Gretchen, and every rule, you become masterful at how to break them in a way that nobody, is really paying attention to or aware of. But, when another songwriter goes and deconstructs these songs, it's like, Jesus, this doesn't follow any of the rules. It's like, that's why some of the music is so incredibly powerful. Leonard Cohen was quite adept at all of it too.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's definitely, folks out there that, and people like, Joni Mitchell, like, there's a lot of sort of rule breakers out there in terms of the traditional, at least pop song or country song type of song structures and formats that people typically relate to. But, we recycle those formats because those are what listeners in Western music are used to listening.
Yeah. The what is it I'm looking for? The structure, the whole
verse, chorus, verse, chorus,
right.
verse, chorus.
Put in a bridge and then you're good.
Chorus, bridge, chorus, it's like we all
right. That's that. So well, this is cool. So let's shift a little bit, because there are some songs that you've written about and they're on Substack that we can talk about. And the first one that you suggested we share is a song called "All That We've Lost," and it's I'm going to see if I can maybe even put the link in the chat. Oh my gosh, I could be like tech savvy. I'm going to like go between screens and there we go. So here's the page on Substack. If anyone's viewing from their browser, they can paste that in and it's interesting. You say it's sort of turned into a protest song. Let's talk about that.
Yeah. It started out as a love song and I don't write a lot of love songs. It's not really my thing. And so when I started revisiting, it was one of those ones that kind of got put in the drawer, and then when I started revisiting it was during COVID. And so suddenly I was thinking of it sort of as a love song, but in the concept of like nostalgia, like love for the fact that none of us saw this coming, right? And how our lives were prior to the pandemic. And then as time went on, you know, and after it had really been out in the wild, you know, and we kind of decided to go for round 2 of what we're living through right now. You know, I started thinking about it in a different light, and that feeling of loss, that I'll describe as nostalgia for, you know, simpler times, and, you know,
Mhm.
more bipartisan politics, and, you know, more peaceful existence, you know, that really, that feeling became like, when I go back and I listen to the song now, that's what I think about. And it you know, and I think all of those themes and feelings are still in there. And you know, I guess what I'd say is, as the writer, if I can't tell you, you know, what the hell it means, you know, then you get to say
Right.
whatever it means to you, right?
Right.
There was just something about the sentiment of that nostalgia. So I mean, I guess, you know, at its core, that's really what the song is about, regardless of what that nostalgia is for.
So I'm gonna try it. Can we try to play the song? I'm gonna try to play
Yeah.
it,
Yeah, please,
and
please.
and I'm thinking the audio should come through. I've checked all the boxes I think is gonna work. So let's give it a shot here and play this. It's out on YouTube.
One bad decision made in time somehow unravels the patterns of our lives, grieving all we left behind. Stuck here staring at a clock we can't unwind, always remembering a tragic reckoning we can't shake. Sober eyes can see scars that bleed so freely in its bitter wake, crying while denying all that we forsake. The truth cannot be whitewashed, can't erase the lines crossed, and all that's left is the cost, the tragedy of all that we've lost. Looking back through the years, before illusion turned into our darkest fears, and everything that we hold dear was lost to touch before it disappeared. Always remembering a tragic reckoning we can't shake. Sober eyes can see scars that bleed so freely in its bitter wake, crying while denying all that we forsake. The truth cannot be whitewashed, can't erase the lines crossed, and all that's left is the cost, the tragedy of all that we've lost. Truth cannot be whitewashed, can't erase the lines crossed, and all that's left is the cost, of tragedy all that we've lost.
Well, I'm clapping now.
You're going,
That
oh
was
my God,
fantastic.
that's
The
70.
hearts started blowing up in the chat.
Oh, did it? Well, the hearts are, thank you for the hearts, but the musician and producer in me was going, that was 7 times too much compression for anybody to actually hear.
You're talking about the audio.
But if you liked it, please go listen to it for real on whatever streaming service you like.
Right. So yeah, because that was on the YouTube, and but you are out there on the streaming because I found you on Apple Music.
Yes,
I'm
I'm
assuming
on
you're on all of the
all the
platforms,
streaming
right?
platforms. Yep.
So just do a search for what's the best way to search Tamara Casey? That's how I found you.
Yeah, Tamara Casey, and or the name of the song with my name next to it. Yeah.
Yeah, I found you by searching your name, but the first song I listened to was "Swear Like a Sailor."
Yeah,
oh, nice. One of my favorites.
I was kind of like edgy stuff, and like, oh, this is not what I expected. So I was wondering if you wanted to like talk about that song a bit, like what inspired it, and how you got to writing about that the way you did, and the title that you have.
Yeah, absolutely. What a great pick, Neuro. I love that one. So I believe it or not, so you want to talk about inspiration. I was walking down the street in New York City. I was walking from a business meeting in Midtown Manhattan down to the train station to come back to DC. And I just like this phrase popped in my head, I swear by the wind and the water, by the grace of Neptune's daughters. And I was like, I swear like a sailor. And so first of all, what you have to know about me is I do swear like a sailor. I am like, I always had a foul mouth. I'm terrible. It's one of my worst attributes. And so, but I also love to sail, and the ocean is like so critically important to me and everything. And so I thought, how fun would it be to juxtapose the idea of swearing like a sailor with all the things that sailors swear by. And so, then it became, I swear by the wind and the water, by the grace of Neptune's daughters, whatever. So like all these things that are sacred and meaningful to sailors and people who love the ocean. And so to turn the whole swearing thing sort of on its head, basically, was the whole idea. And then the song just became very much about that lifestyle. And I kind of had a bunch of snippets and phrases and things all over the place, and the chorus came together pretty quickly on that one. And then it was just how to, in the verses, how to think about how would I or another sailor describe these these locations and feelings and relationship to the sea and the wind and the seabirds and all these things, in a way that was sort of jaunty and fun and fit in with that sort of sea shanty-ish kind of
channeling your inner Jimmy Buffett. And
yeah, I mean, yes,
bit.
no, I'd say channeling more, the inner sea shanty thing than pure Jimmy Buffett. But it's funny, we were talking about song structure. That's a song that is very bizarre structurally if you listen to it. So it starts with the chorus, then you have 2 verses, a chorus, a bridge, and a chorus. So this is a very weird song.
Well, let's ask the chat. Hey, folks, do you guys want to hear it? I can bring it. I brought it up.
Love to hear it again.
My Apple Music. We can play Swear Like a Sailor. What do you think, guys? The chat's probably a few seconds behind us, so I'm just gonna throw that out there to our
yes.
people. I mean, my answer is yes. It's gonna be yes anyway. We're seeing some hearts coming up, so I'm gonna take that as yes. Let me see if I can get this one to function. Let's go here.
Yeah, try it from Apple Music, Jason.
That's where I've got it.
That's probably the best. The audio quality is going to be double streaming it.
There we go. And hey, there we go. Let's fire this up. Let's see. Play.
I swear by the wind and the water, by the grace of Neptune's daughters, born by the bay and raised in the waves. I guess it's safe to say, no more for me. I was forged by the sea. I still get lost in a melody, drifting along, swearing like a sailor. There's nothing like a great big bay to be the compass that guides the way. Them old seabirds, so much to say, a real good sign when you're underway. Swear I tried so many times to fold my sails, tie off my line, still drifting along, swearing like a sailor. There's nothing like the stars at night, far away from those city lights. Swear I hear that wind in my sails. She calls my name and she never fails. Mama Ocean, hold on to me. As close to you as where I need to be. Drifting along, swearing like a sailor. Tossed and torn, to be washed and worn by the salty sun, tanned in line by the sands of time, drifting along, swearing like a sailor. I swear by the wind and the water, by the grace of Neptune's daughters, born by the bay and raised in the waves. I guess it's safe to say, no port for me. I was forged by the sea. I still get lost in a melody, drifting along, swearing like a sailor. Wind and the water, Neptune's daughters, forged by the sea, lost in a melody, stars at night, no city lights, throw off my lines. I swear, just like a sailor. Wind and the water, Neptune's daughters, forged by the sea, lost in a melody, stars at night.
Right. Well, that was awesome.
Yeah.
That was really good.
Something better in my
I
car.
really need a drink with an umbrella in it right now. Just,
Yeah.
I mean, it's afternoon here, right? I think it's even afternoon. I'm having this experience with like one. It's like it's great that
You gotta see the comments.
Oh, hang on. Right. Who's in the mood for a goddamn margarita?
Exactly.
You can have I was brainstorming in the chat, Taz. You could have a follow up to this. I swear, like Sam Jackson.
Yes. I
know.
do.
That would be the complimentary song. Maybe not the island vibe for that one.
It's definitely a very, very autobiographical song. I mean, I think some of my favorite parts, you asked about, sort of how songwriting is different than poetry and stuff like that. Right. And so sometimes it's, the kinds of metaphors you choose, right? Like one of my favorite times is swear I've tried so many times to fold my sails, tie off my lines, but I'm still drifting along, swearing like a sailor, right? It's just like that's, sort of getting at the, like all the chapters in our lives, right? Like, we're like, I gotta, and sometimes it's even for music. I'm like, what the hell am I doing? Why am I doing this? And so, sometimes the metaphors we choose, and, another part of the song that I really like besides the chorus is the bridge. Some of us are born to be tossed and torn, to be washed and worn by the salty sun, tanned and lined by the sands of time, still drifting along, like, as swearing like a sailor, like, so I think sometimes it's just, when you're writing the poetry within the context of whatever the broader story of the song is, it gives you a chance to play with metaphor in a way that I think, sometimes traditional poetry, doesn't have that sort of backstory, whether that's a musical backstory or the actual story concept of a song. So
I think it's
maybe not, but there are narrative poems.
yeah.
Oh
Well,
yeah,
I
no,
think
absolutely. I think it's just if it's like when you have I think maybe, people in spoken word poetry probably get closer to this kind of thing, versus, I'm thinking about sort of, more traditional forms, but you can certainly have the narration, but I think the metaphors you choose maybe when you're writing something set to music or that are in the context of a broader story might be, I don't know if it narrows your choices or expands your choices, honestly, but I think it focuses them, if that makes sense.
I think what I'm getting from you, from your, well, from the limited material that I've listened to so far, though, is that, I think songs and, classic rock music or whatever I listen to, a lot of songs are sort of storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, you've got love songs and you've got songs that are kind of autobiographical. What I feel from your songs is that they're emotionally relatable. Like when you have to think about the words a little bit. And then when you start hearing them on repeat, you start getting those deeper meanings and how that kind of could be like a metaphor for life or whatever. And it's quite appealing. I think it's quite nice what you've done there.
Thank
So
you.
that's
Thank you.
very cool. And now that one you had, like, I'm guessing you had a studio. There was you had background vocals. There was other instruments, not just you and a guitar.
Yeah, no, well, that one came together across lots of different collaborators and lots of different sessions, and honestly over a very long period of time. So I didn't write that originally for me to sing or release. A good friend of mine, Johnny Williams, is the one I actually wanted to release the song. And one of the best guitarists in Nashville, played on that track, and so, but it was like that song has had so many lives and took so long to finally get it together, and then had to sort of be recreated in many ways when I decided to sing it myself and release it. So yeah, it has a checkered history, but it's been, started with Jay Nash and I wrote the song originally. And then I worked on it with Josh Day and Scott Patton and Johnny Williams in Nashville. And then, ended up going back and working on it more and changing the key and having another guitarist, Johnny Casson, ended up replaying all the guitar parts. And Todd stuck some good old fashioned baritone ukulele in there. So yeah, it's had a million lives. So it keeps drifting along, swearing.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's not exactly the Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner. It's
No.
a different vibe altogether.
No,
so.
But for a modern day person who likes to sail and does swear a lot, maybe it's my version of that. Right?
One of my subscribers pretty much lives on a sailboat most of the time. I'm
Brad
heard this one or not. So yeah, that's very cool. So I think we have time for. I'm just checking our where we're at right now. I think we have time for one more thing. The chat's been just very positive here for you. She's a word artist for sure, is what Julie says. So really, really great. Thanks for everyone who's in the live today. It's always cool. But you did you released one like first to Substack. Is that correct? You used the Substack platform to release an
Yeah,
most
well,
recent-
I mentioned I have kind of the two categories or buckets of my writing, right? So there's the stuff that I do, that I sing, that I release, and that's all out there on the streaming platforms. And then I have 5 times as much music that I've written that I may or may not be singing on that I don't release because that's the stuff that I'm working on pitching to music supervisors and sync opportunities and things like that. And so I have written about that in my Substack. So there's some posts. If you go back and find my Saints and Scoundrels post, Saints and Scoundrels is my fake band name for the work that I do that's primarily for sync. So some of that includes songs that I sing on. Most of it does not. Most of that is work where I've hired other artists that I think have the right vocal character for the emotion the song is trying to portray. So a lot of those, the only place you can hear them is in those Substack posts. So they're little gems hidden behind the scenes for my Substack subscribers.
Hit that subscribe button, people.
Yeah, hit the subscribe button.
That's subscribe.
Although, I have paid subscriptions turned on, but I keep all my stuff is free to everybody. I haven't figured out what the heck I would do to charge people for that would make them want to pay more. But if you want to, buy me a coffee or something, that's great.
There
And then the only other little gem that's hidden out there that's under another fake band name is Christmas with My Dogs by the fake band Barclay Square. If you're looking for a new and funny Christmas song, I encourage you to check that one out. My friend Todd Wright sings on that, and I sing the background vocals, but I wrote that right before COVID, and there's a cute video on my YouTube page about Christmas dogs for that one. And then the other one that's out there is Keepers of the Time, which Jay Nash and I wrote together, and he decided to actually release. So that's out there too for people. So
very cool. So do you want to talk about One Eye Open? Because I think that's your most recent one, right?
No,
that's just a but that's a Substack release.
As of now, that's a Substack only release. Honestly, I would put the link to that in the chat, Jason, because that song is so harmonically intense. I don't know that people are really going to get a feel for it at all streaming it through another stream. So maybe we just put that in the
okay, let's see.
The link to that Substack post in the chat.
Do that.
And we can talk about it briefly.
It's a long link, but I'm going to paste it in there anyway. I'm not sure how much of that link you really need. You might only need the first part of that link. I'm not sure why it gave all the extra stuff, but that's the direct link, and you've got the lyrics there as well. I can bring this up on the screen.
Oh no, not that link. That probably, I don't know if that. Well, that might.
That was the one that I pulled from the website, but let me just see something here. Copy. Nope, that didn't work.
Let me find it real quick.
I think you sent it to me in the chat, so
yeah.
Okay, I'll copy that.
While she's looking for that, there was something I wanted to comment on from the conversation from much earlier. And you're talking about being all over the place and being eclectic and whatnot. I'm like, all over the place in a good way, because the best musicians I've met or listened to were always all over the place. Were always eclectic in their tastes, and even played multiple instruments, whether or not they were classically trained or self-taught. The best ones just had that all over the place thing. And so, I mean, as an artist of any kind, having that kind of versatility and eclectic taste is a very good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree with that more. And I think, you know, regardless if you ultimately decide to sort of focus on a lane, I think still having all of that diversity of experience is really critical, and you know, can't help but influence you in positive ways. And you know, and the thing that I like about sync writing so much is it really got me to stop thinking about writing from you know, from a single point of view, if you will, right? Like writing from different points of view and putting yourself in the shoes of different characters, even if, you know, you can't help but have some of your own personality ticks come out in what they're going to do or say, right? But that being able to you know, I mentioned in one of those Saints and Scoundrels posts, you know, one of the best experiences I ever had was thinking of writing a song for the devil to sing while he was sitting playing his grand piano in the, you know, rooftop bar nightclub that he owned. And you're like, what? You know, well, it was a character from the TV show Lucifer, right? Which I absolutely loved. And, you know, they always had him whenever he was being broody or mad about something, you know, he'd go sit at his piano and start playing and stuff. And I was like, I want to write a song for that scene, you know? And so, you know, like channeling how that character would, you know, think about things and sing about things, you know, like really takes you away. And that freedom of writing for characters is really special. And you know, Gretchen Peters, who I mentioned, who I just worship as a songwriter, she is the master of that. I mean, she will write, you know, backstories that go on for days, like a novelist would, about the characters for her songs, sometimes before, you know, she even you know, starts to try and, you know, get that spark for what is this song going to be. She has a song called 5 Minutes, which is a very illustrative of this point. You know, she did work as a, you know, as a waitress when she first got to Nashville. And then when she was playing, she spent years observing how the waitresses and the bars and the servers and stuff were treated. And so she thinks of them, you know, she has like pockets of these people that she worked with and, you know, came up with when she was still playing in clubs, that, you know, she's written entire backstories about their lives, which are compilations of stories she heard from maybe, you know, 15 or 20 different people, right? And then kind of synthesize them down into these characters. And so that is definitely, you know, a really freeing thing as a writer, you know, is creating those different characters and then thinking about, you know, what are the sentiments? How would they say things? Not how would I say it, right? But how would the characters say it? Like, that's a lot of fun.
Well,
That sounds awesome. Thanks for the recommendation. I'm gonna check her out.
and we have a lot of creative writers on here too, so all of this starts coming around full circle. You got to think in multiple ways. I'm sitting, you're describing that, I'm thinking of, you know, now I'm thinking about the song Piano Man, because it's like, oh, like all these little characters, right, in a song.
Yeah, that's a great example, right? And yeah, I haven't I haven't finished it, but I wrote a song. I wrote about it a while ago. I think it's called Confessions of a Historical Fiction Junkie. But I wrote a song that was about, you know, British sea captain from the Napoleonic Wars, right? And it's basically his life story summed up in like, something like 27 novels that I read, of this crazy series of these books about this character. But I felt like I knew this guy so well, and I knew the story of his life from having read all those novels. So then I was like, well, there should be like a Broadway musical about this or something. And I need to write the story of this guy's life, and so it's the relationship between the visual arts, writing generally, but I'd say particularly fiction and songwriting. There's sort of it's if it's a yin yang thing, right? There's 3 or 4 things in the yin yang thing that are all going back and forth at once. But it's if anybody wants to give it a spin, so to speak, right, in terms of songwriting, and they're already writers and already have characters developed, you can think about, well, how would that translate like into a musical production of what you're doing? And maybe that would give you some inspiration for it. And and you don't have to play anything, just start singing, and start playing around with ideas, and write it as a poem first, maybe, or write it as a little story vignette first, and then think about it. There's a lot of different ways to get into a song. It could just be putting on a metronome or clapping your hands, or keeping time with your foot to a beat. And my song Still Got It, like I that whole thing came out of me just sitting there with a beat playing, right? That I knew it was going to start out with being this song where I was driving, and so it was like, just this pulsating beat, and writing to a beat, made those lyrics, start to shape up, into something that then lended itself to the melody coming very quickly. So there's a lot of different ways to get into it, and people should play and have fun with it, right? That's what
I was going to say. There's a lot of
all about, right?
There's a lot of amazing technology that's practically free now to record and do things. Like I fooled around with multi-track, just okay, I have a guitar and then I try to play over that. And I mean, I have a Mac, so GarageBand is just
Right.
you can screw around with that, and in ways that would have not even been possible without far more complex setups 20 years ago. So it's pretty cool what you can do. But this has been great. We could go probably keep going for for a long time. But
Thumb Jam?
What's that?
Have you heard of Thumb Jam? I don't even know if it's still an active app, but a while back, iPads were still relatively new, iPads and iPhones. This app called Thumb Jam, and you could like play the instrument on the phone.
Oh, wow.
Just by sliding your finger across the screen. And it sounds like they had sound files for a whole lot of different instruments. And you could even flip it over to like a percussion side, to tap the phone. And you could jam with people and do recordings.
Oh,
nice.
It's still an active app, but it was fun to play with.
I had a drum kit app once that you could just, do stuff on. Very, very fun stuff. But yeah, I think there's just so many potential ways to get creative now in outlets that you might not have thought you were good at. You don't have to be good at, right? But like if you've got an iPad and there's GarageBand, you can fiddle around with it and you never know what might come out.
Right.
So that's very cool. Well, listen, Taz, it's been awesome having you here today. This has been a very nice break from all of the things in the that are out there right now. I'm glad we had this space to connect and to discuss things that are creative and keep us sane. And Neuro, you got anything else to add before we
I was going to say something earlier and then I derailed myself.
Oh no, it's probably my fault.
It's fine.
Oh well, okay. Well, listen, everyone,
Taz,
it's been great.
Yeah, no, I thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure, and like there's nothing songwriters like more than talking about songwriting. So,
Well, fantastic.
anytime.
And those of you who are on there, if you're watching this live, or even if you're watching the recording, please subscribe to Taz at Rare Groove Productions. Tamara Casey, we have really enjoyed this. We'll be back after a short break in the beginning of the month. But until next time, keep creating,
Yes.
keep being creative. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming to the show.